Hong Kong investors bet big on China's Alibaba Group and Tencent on Monday, amid signs that Beijing's regulatory crackdown on the country's tech sector was finally winding down. It comes after news on Friday that Chinese authorities slapped a nearly $1 billion fine against the Jack Ma-founded Ant Group for violating consumer protection and corporate governance laws. The penalty amounts to one of the largest ever fines for an internet company in China, but also marks the end to a years-long regulatory overhaul of the fintech company. That began in late 2020 and derailed Ant's IPO, at the time set to be the world's largest. The abrupt shelving of that listing marked the start of a wide-ranging clampdown by Beijing on industries from technology to education. Regulators were seeking to assert their authority over what they said were excesses and bad practices emerging from years of runaway growth. Aside from Ant, Chinese authorities also announced on Friday they had fined, among others, Tencent's online payment platform Tenpay nearly $450 million for violations in areas such as customer data management. China's central bank said on Friday that most of these platform companies' key problems had been rectified and that regulators would now shift from focusing on specific companies to the overall regulation of the industry.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony. The US and Russia are dangerously close to an armed conflict. This year, 2023, New Delhi will be the capital of global diplomacy. For a country as diverse as ours, with 88% of the population illiterate, it was a very big deal to write a constitution, and that too, the world's largest. Meanwhile, if we may, here's a Republic Day gift from India for the BBC. A list of suggestions for the BBC for their upcoming documentaries. Number 1, the Kohinoor and the colonial loot. Number 2, an outdated monarchy and unhealthy obsession with the royals. Number 3, racism in 2023. We're waiting.